folks. You're live with Lonzo, the Godfather of West Coast Hip Hop. Today, I'm a reporter for the Compton Chronicles, a YouTube channel and Facebook channel that wants to information in the city of Compton, let you know what's going on. And today, I have a good friend of mine. He's running for sheriff in the city of LA County Sheriff, former chief of Compton, Mr. Cecil Rhambo. How you doing today, Doc?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine. Back up a little bit. You're taller than I am on camera. Back away from the camera just a little bit there. Just there you go, right there. We're about the same size now. Okay, cool. How's everything going?
Everything's good. It's a grind, but it's really an exhilarating process, quite frankly.
This is our second interview about your run for this office. How do you feel so far? How do you feel going into less than 3 weeks away from the primary?
I feel good. There's so many candidates in the race, and raising money is very difficult. And the incumbent is raising quite a bit of money. He's getting a lot of money on the right, quite frankly. But I feel good because I think I'm raising more money than the other candidates, and the bottom line is I have more experience and varied experience than any candidate in the field, and including the sheriff.
Now, we're gonna repeat ourselves just for those who seen this for the first time. Give us your experience resume, please.
All right, I'll be brief, as brief as I can. So, I've got 36 years of law enforcement experience. I retired from the sheriff's department retired in 2014 and joined in 1981. But I started in LA County as a Parks and Rec lifeguard in 76. So I spent in 2014, when I retired, I had 38 and a half years of county service at that point. In the sheriff's department, I worked everything from undercover narcotics to patrol to custody. I worked internal affairs twice at 2 different ranks. I also worked internal criminals, where I actually had to arrest deputy and civilian personnel. I led the AB 109 prison realignment that happened in 2011. I was the ranking member of that committee on how we look at alternatives to incarceration here in LA County. Did reentry programs, rehabilitation programs in the custodial system. Ran the Asian Crime Task Force, in which we did outreach to the API community. I had the Hate Crime Task Force. I won an award from a Jewish organization on creating a platform on anti-hate. And then when I retired in 2014, I got recruited by the city of Carson to be your assistant city manager out there. At the time, if you guys recall, about that time, we were courting or competing with Inglewood for the stadium. I did that for almost 3 years, where I learned, municipal government in general, not just, how to run a city, but also ran a one-stop, which was part of the employment development department. So, learning how to get people jobs that are coming straight out of custody in the transition subsidized employment program, using those funds also to get youth employment development in terms of getting them job training skills, in terms of interviewing, resume writing, and those kinds of things. Came to Compton as a city manager. I got recruited over there again, full circle, 20 years coming back years later, being their city manager. And I did that for almost 3 years and ran a Section 8 program. Some of the projects you guys see in Compton now, some of those housing developments, like on Central, there's one on N.W.A. in Compton. There's stuff coming up on Long Beach and Temple over there where the old McDonald's used to be, Compton and Santa Fe. All those projects started under, my administration as a city manager there. So economic development was something I really pushed. I also repopulated our old city hall over there off of Alameda and Elm, where we put in Volunteers for America and Shields for Families. Those buildings had been languishing for years, unrented, unused space. So we made space for those really vitally needed services for the citizens in Compton. So then I got recruited as the chief of police of LAX, which is the largest aviation police department here in the nation. I have LAX and Van Nuys Airport. And then on the property of Van Nuys Airport, there's a hotel there called the Airtel. It has 240 beds of people that are that were part of Operation Room Key. So there's 240 unhoused folks that are occupying that facility right now. So I have a lot of experience in a lot of different venues and a lot of different public service delivery arenas. And so that's Cecil. And then also I'm from the community. I went to Washington High. I was adopted from an orphanage. My parents were in Compton in 1950. We moved to South Central in the early 60s, and I graduated from Washington, went to Henry Clay Junior High, and I have a degree in sociology from Humboldt State, and I have a master's in org leadership from Woodbury, and I'm halfway complete with a master's in public administration from Long Beach. So that's me.
Ain't no way in the world you can do a short version of that resume, Doc. There's no way in the world you can do that.
I left some stuff out too, but I didn't, I wanted to keep everybody awake.
That's a lot of accomplishment for one human being, Doc. You had nothing but community service in your life. I mean, you're a bona fide community servant. People before profit. Sounds like. I met you. You were the chief of police. Well, you were the captain or the chief in Compton, and we've been friends ever since then. I've always seen you to be a square player. And I like that about you. Up until you, I didn't like police. I'm gonna tell you. I told you this before. Up until I sat down and talked with you, I did not like police. I was like most brothers in the community. I didn't care for police. I had some very bad experiences in my teenage years, even in my adult years with the sheriff's department. And I had reservations of dealing with anybody that carried a badge and a gun. And when I sat down and talked to you the few times we've talked, quite a few times we've talked, I got a new perspective on law enforcement. I understand there's bad guys on both sides of the fence. Law enforcement is very necessary. There's some people in the game that, understand both sides of the fence, and you're one of those guys that I can talk. I was able to talk to, and I know your heart, and that right there is why I'm keeping supporting you in everything you've done. Okay, that's real talk. He ain't giving me a dime for this, folks. That's just man to man. I don't get a dime for this. If you remember my opening line, I had my show in Compton, no script, no paycheck, strictly for the love of the CPT. That's why I'm here today, Doc. I think this brother is a great person to support when it comes to the sheriff's department. I've talked to sheriffs that know him recently, and they all say the same thing. Of course, there's some N.W.A. supporters as well, but those who know him know he would do a great job as the chief sheriff in city in LA County. When you get that position, first of all, let's do the primary. Primary June 7th, correct?
Yep, June 7th. Ballots are already in the mail now, so you should have a ballot at your house. Vote Rhambo for sheriff, and then pass it around to your friends and family. Make sure you vote for Rhambo for sheriff. If you don't mail it in, please don't forget to mail it in. We have to vote. And that's one of the things that hinders us in our community is we become apathetic, depending on what time of year it is. So like right now we have a gubernatorial race. Most people come out during presidential cycles. And so you have a lot of things going on right now. And if any of your listeners live in the city of LA, there's a lot of things going on in the city. Of course, you've got Karen, running against Rick Caruso. So there's a lot of big stuff happening. And so really, really, really pay attention to what's going on. There's judges there. There's assembly members. There's people running for Congress, Senate. So you really got those people really make a difference in how public service is delivered in our communities.
And I think I was just talking to a young lady, Candace, a few minutes ago. She has an organization called Compton Advocate, and her thing is to get people out to vote. And a lot of people in the community don't understand how important the local elections are. Those are the most important elections that affect your life every day. Like he just said, you're voting for judges, okay? There's judges that you may stand in front of one day that you actually have to cast a vote for, and most judges win by a small margin because most people don't really vote when it comes to judges. We definitely need the support for the mayor, people like Cecil Rhambo. This is my personal, this has nothing to do with Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, none of them. This is my personal choices. And take your ballot, look it over carefully, make a wise decision, but make a decision. Don't just let those who understand the process take control of the community because they understand the process.
Yeah, usually what happens is what I'm finding in this big political race now that I've stuck my toe in this arena is if you don't have the money or the resources to really do the outreach, I mean, despite my resume, if I can't get the word out to 10 million people here in LA County, which is everything from think about Orange County county line to Kern County line to San Bernardino Riverside County line. Think about how big and vast that area is.
Yes.
right? Trying to get that information out to all these folks. And so, my strategy is I've secured the support of SEIU 721, which is a very large local, like 90,000 employees. I've secured Joint Council 42, which is Teamsters, another 100,000. I just got Unite Here 11, which is the local that has the airport workers as well as food service people. And their son was a member of that group. Was the young man, a young man who got killed over in West Compton. His father is a member of that local. So that local coming out to support me is very, very important. They represent 30,000 plus employees. So that's one way to get the word out. And then really I've been driving all over LA County. I bought a Prius because gas is crazy. I'm all over, meeting people face to face and having those tough discussions. Because quite frankly, the pendulum is starting to swing. When we first got in this race, everything was about, defunding the police, or let's look at, progressive reforms on law enforcement. And somehow, they started, going back to what we saw in the 90s, where people are saying, we want the police, we want to see people get tough on crime. And, I think there's a balance. And you and I know this because we saw this in Compton. I didn't come in, banging heads. We came in with programs, community organizing, marches in the street, very open on your show. Anytime you called, I came out to your show. Yes, we took folks to jail, but at the same time, I've created that youth center over there, over off Alameda now, and we put a boxing center there, computer lab, tutoring programs, reading programs, trying to stop that school to prison pipeline. So it can be done on both scales. We just have to have some balance, and I think that's what I bring to the table.
And I think that's what's needed. That's what's needed in your life, period. Balance. I heard about a story one time that there was the neighbors complaining about some dope being sold in the community, and you couldn't get the support, so you put a camper or something in the dope house.
Well, actually, the story was, and I'm not going to say the street, but there was a woman who called me every single day about a cat selling dope across the street from her house. And she was concerned about her kids and things like that. So I told my narcotics guys, I told the deputies, they would do what they could, but we were so busy, they just didn't have time to really. And narcotics, for those of you who don't know, it works very slowly. There's a whole process to that. So I really went over there, and first I just parked as a captain, I went over there and parked my police car on the grass and ate my lunches in front of the house, and deterred, they wouldn't come up there while I was there. I wasn't trying to, kick this guy's door down or anything. I wanted to just say, hey, look, we just need this to go away, and find another location, because he was renting the house. And then later on, we had a spike in crime over in an area of Compton known as Front Hood. And I went over there and literally parked a mobile home there and stayed there for about a week, walked the streets with the local councilwoman. At the time, it was Councilwoman Zarita. We basically brought government to the community, because people are busy. They don't really know how to get things done with government. So we brought all those resources out there. And what I did is ostensibly said the chief of police and the sheriff's department is literally on your street. So, we brought a lot of crime down. We engaged with the community. We talked to people we had never seen before. People were really engaged. And I did that all over the county, because later on I became the commanding officer over all of gang operations in LA County. And I emulated that process in hotspots throughout the county of Los Angeles.
That's an excellent program. I mean, you got the job done. Nobody got shot.
Right.
Neighbors were happy. All they wanted them to do is go away. Just be on my block. I also remember when you were city manager for Compton, you actually took your personal time and cleaned out the LA River. What it is, the riverbed?
Oh, the Compton Creek. Yeah, the Compton Creek.
Yeah. That was not your job description, was it?
No, it wasn't. But I mean, the bottom line is it's something. Look, in some of the more affluent communities, they have that. So in Compton, we have 3 miles of not only walking and jogging path, we also have 3 miles on the other side, which is an equestrian trail. So it had just gone uncared for years. So I spent a little bit of overtime money. I banked some money away, so we got public works out there. We really made it something where, because you need some of that stuff needed actually like front loaders and really heavy duty equipment. So we went and did swaths of it until we got all 3 miles cleaned up on the running side. And it was a constant battle, because we also have a number of issues with illegal dumping in Compton. So dealing with those issues. But yeah, I thought it was important for me, one, to lead that charge as a city manager. And I know the public works people there have never seen a city manager spend that much time in the public works yard. And I thought it was important. And I told those guys, you know, public safety and really crime and how people behave isn't just the cops. It's also how the city looks. Do you have grass going up out the sidewalks? Are the street lights working? You know, are the medians maintained? You know, are the potholes filled? If people don't think that we care about the city, then they're not going to care about their behavior. So I made them all part of the whole process. And so it was really, and then I worked with the churches. You know, we painted the red curbs along Compton Boulevard and in various parts of the community on our own time. Got some volunteers. We painted the red curbs back. Just little things like that. It was really important to really engage the community because really people really care about their community, but they need leadership to make it happen.
Let me see. I got some people in the chat room. James Hudson says, very interesting interview. He also says Bill N.W.A has to go. He's a racist, a criminal. I'm just repeating what somebody told me. What's up, Lonzo? Checking in from Philly. Gary's Garage says he got the job. What's up? Okay, so folks, we're live with Cecil Rhambo. We're live. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. And we're live on multiple YouTube channels, live on multiple Facebook channels. If you have a question or something you'd like to talk to Mr. Rhambo about, please do that in the chat room. Last time we talked, Cecil, I didn't fire the chat room up. And boy, I opened it up. I had about 20 questions that I needed to ask, and you were gone already. So they kind of got on me because I didn't take the time out. I didn't see the little number over here by this little bubble. And you did that on purpose? No, I don't do that on purpose. Anyway, how would you as a sheriff deal with the homeless situation? That's really out of control these days.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that. So a lot of people don't realize that the homeless there's a host of reasons why people are homeless, but the biggest issue that I've seen lately, one is the court shut down, and so there wasn't a lot of stuff where people were going through the court over like land use or zoning or ordinances, right? So the camping ordinance. But people also forget that we process about 2,000 people a week in and out of the county jail because people just are not doing life in the county jail. They come out. So what the sheriff can do, and what I did when I was in the department, is we would try to do jail in reach, so to make sure that when you're coming out, you have a place to go to, and you have some of the barriers that are obstacles to actually getting in the homeless integrated management system called the HIM system. So sometimes they don't have a California ID, they don't have a license, they don't have a social security card, or they may need some other form of like a caregiver to go home to. So we did all that, months before they started transitioning out, so that they had as few barriers to housing when they came out. Same thing with job readiness. If they were able to be job ready, we would start interviewing classes in there, resume writing, give them job training skills before they start coming out, and try to connect them with employment, and then follow up with case management afterwards. The other process is the civil management part of the sheriff's department. If you're a landlord and you're going to evict somebody, so the eviction moratorium, I think, is over now. So what'll happen is people are going to start getting evicted because they haven't paid rent or whatever, whatever the reason. And the sheriff's department is ordered by the court to make those evictions happen. Well, if I know that, Cecil and Lonzo are getting ready to get evicted out, I need to make sure that our homeless outreach people are providing them resources before we have to evict them out to homelessness. So there's a number of ways to stop feeding into the homeless problem. And then like earlier this morning, I had a conversation with a psychologist over at Kedron. Kedron is a mental health facility here in the county. And one of the things that we're talking about, Sacramento is looking at some legislation where people that are suffering from severe mental illness, which is part of this homeless population, putting them into some type of conservatorship where they stop cycling in and out of the county jail, or stop cycling in and out of these 72-hour holds where they're just constantly back on the street. And then also looking at court mandated rehabilitation. So if you come into my custody, I'm going to have some rehabilitation programs for you just to get your head back on straight, so that you can have a fighting chance to, have some employment coming out. And then right now at the airport, what I do, those that do end up in custody, we have a what's called vertical prosecution. There's a city attorney that takes all the cases, and she diverts 50 of those cases. People that want it, to rehab or they go to some type of treatment center as a diversion for their, instead of going to jail, they go to these services. So, I think there's methods to do that, but we have to have the willpower. Then we also have to work with and I know this is a long answer, but we've got to work with our municipal agencies here in the county. There's 88 cities here in LA County. I've worked for 2 of them. I've developed housing in 2 of them. What happens is you have to have enough capacity for low income and low income people. And we're not talking about building another Nickerson Gardens or anything like that. We're talking about building housing, affordable housing, where people can actually, that are regular working folks, can actually afford to live. And that's one of the missing links in terms of enough housing. So, and there's money for that. There's federal government money from the home program that literally in Compton, I had about $11 million where I could, give developers money to develop affordable housing. So understanding that as a sheriff and then working with those municipalities, I think is going to be vitally important. And the last thing I want to tell you is that I ran a Section 8 program in Compton. And when you come out on parole, you can't live with people in Section 8 because that's against the Section 8 rules. My contention, I've already spoken to Karen Bass about this, who's still a sitting congresswoman. If I can be paid for by the federal government or the county or the state as a prisoner, why can't I be reunited with my family or my mother's, the mother of my children who live in Section 8 housing when I'm released? So I want to alleviate, that's a barrier to housing that's already there. Why can't we let our folks that are coming back out, reunite with their families? And they have to abide by rules. So as long as they're abiding by the rules, okay, so you're on parole. But that should not deny you housing. And I think that's something I want to lobby HUD. And that'll help us nationwide, not just here in LA County.
So a lot of the homeless is caused by people getting out of jail and can't go live with loved ones who are on, any kind of government assistance, such as Section 8.
Right.
And so now people are destitute to be out in the streets. And what do you perceive? Because I know a lot of people have issues with the district attorney. He's turned the volume down on a lot of crimes, and people are just, in some cases, are just kind of buck wild. How do you address it? If he's not going to prosecute certain crimes, how do you maintain a level of civility?
Yeah.
I mean, people walking in the stores, grabbing, they shopping and walking out past the security guard and giving him the finger and keeping on going. How do you stop that? How do you, make that happen? Yeah, stop it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, understanding what those crimes are. So when someone walks into a store with the intent to steal, that's not a petty theft, it's a burglary. And people don't understand that. For me as a sheriff, I'm going to, make sure my deputies are enforcing the law. I don't care what the DA is going to file or not file. That person committed a crime, charge them with the appropriate crime, write the proper report, take them to jail, and let the district attorney figure that out. Now, one of the things that I will tell you, Prop 47 is being looked at up in Sacramento. So I would like to see, so it used to be if you had a petty theft with a prior, it was a felony. So I don't mind it, it doesn't have to be one prior, but maybe if you have 3 prior felony arrests or 3 prior petty theft arrests, it should be a felony. Everybody's concerned about the $950 limit on what constitutes a grand theft, which is a felony. Well, in other states that are much more conservative than California, it's even higher. It's like 1,000 or 1,500, Texas and Arizona. Not to mention their crime rate is just as high in those conservative states as ours. So I'm not saying that it's not. There may be some correlation between the district attorney's soft on crime approach on low level offenses, but the reality is if you're out there jacking people for their cars or you're robbing people at gunpoint while they sit at restaurants, that's not a fault of the DA not filing charges on those kinds of people. So my position is that's his race. He was elected by the citizens here in LA County. My contention would be, George, let's talk about case by case issues. Like this juvenile that was involved in the murder of these 3 kids in the Valley the other day. Whether or not he charges that juvenile as an adult, I don't know, because I don't know all the facts of that case. My gut tells me that if that juvenile's involved in that case, our instincts is like this person needs to be charged as an adult. We don't know the circumstances. So look at it case by case. Don't just draw a definitive line of demarcation. We will never charge a juvenile with as an adult. We will never charge you with a felony, with a petty theft, with a prior. I think there needs to be some balance there again, as we talked about.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, everything is negotiable. What about these takeovers, man? These takeovers. I don't know if you know that, but I was a victim of street racing. Killed my mother-in-law, the whole 9 yards. Put me in the hospital for a week, and I have no compassion, understanding whatsoever about anybody doing any vehicular stunts on the streets. And I've been caught in these takeovers numerous times, just trying to make basic transportation. How could you, as the sheriff, find a way to stop this and bring some law and order back to the intersections of our city?
Yeah. Well, there's a number of ways. So as the sheriff, you have a little bit of political clout. And so you lobby the Sacramento legislators to, one, increase the penalties for participating in such, street performances. So there's always like a tipping point. At what point will it be like, oh, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get my car taken. The other one is also making sure that we have task forces involving the CHP, LAPD, all the multi-jurisdictional task forces, which I actually brought to Compton because we had a high number of fatalities when I first became the commanding officer there. So having those task forces, and then what's really changed is over the years is that the advent of social media has caused people to be able to coordinate these things without our knowledge. So using our technology, using monitoring the social media, we talk about technology and drones. Some people don't want drones. Some people do want drones. I think there is a place in law enforcement for drones. So if you get some technology, or you get a word that they're going to meet some particular location, you send the drone over. You get footage of license plates and all these kinds of things. Look at the scene, and then you coordinate your efforts in there. And so there's technology resources, and then also people forgetting the newer the car. You can control these cars on the computer. You can call up, OnStar and just control the car over that. So looking at all these different options, I think, so higher penalties for these violations. I know in Orange County, they're talking about giving you life without possibility of parole if you kill somebody in a speed contest. I don't know if that's going to fly, but certainly we need to take a look at much more stringent penalties. And then in the public works arena, you can design the streets with those bot dots, those little rumble dots,
right?
So that they can't sit and do donuts in the middle of the street. If they do, it will tear up their suspension and things like that. So, there's some physical ways, security through environmental design that you can also take a look at. So, working with municipalities on best practices for that too.
We had to install those little pylons, the sticks, like cones, in some of the intersections around my neighborhood, because they found we had some big intersections, and on Sunday nights they doing circles. So now we have a traffic circle where an intersection used to be, and it is what it is. But still do it.
Environmental design, right? Yeah.
That is crazy. Anything you want to say to the folks, man? Before we wrap this, anything else you want to get out to them? I want to see you in that position, not because you're a friend of mine, because you're a good dude. And I know you'll be there for the good of the people, bottom line. And not because, again, I don't get paid for this. I'm doing this just strictly out of support for this brother right here. I know him. I've been rocking with him for a while. He's not new to this business. He's not doing it for the money. He don't have to go to work. He got multiple. I'm gonna put his man in the street, but I know for a fact he's retired from a couple of different organizations. He don't have to do this. He ain't doing this because he's short. No, by no means. So I've always believed when people do something for a love or a passion, it makes a big difference as opposed to money and power. And you already got power. You've been in this position before. You have power over the airplanes, which is a very powerful situation. So to sit here and want to run this situation and implement these programs, I think it's very commendable. I'm praying that you make it on the election and in the final race, Doc. That's me to you. I know your heart, and also just so you know, if you got time, the golf tournament is going down on June 20th.
Give me an invite to that.
You got it. We'll be back at Lakewood Country Club.
Okay.
Cecil Rhambo, talk to me first. Anything you want to say before you wrap this show up?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned, the altruistic reasons for running. I mean, the question is, I will tell you that life is not infinite, and that's one reason I'm actually doing this, because I know I'm not going to be here forever. This is a unique opportunity in history. It's a unique opportunity in our lifetime, and life. The time we have is more valuable than money, because you can always make more money. I cannot get back more time. And so I want to make sure that, the experience set that I have, the background that I come from, this is certainly a unique opportunity where a young man who comes from an orphanage, who grew up in South Central, went to Washington High, knows the community, has seen my father fight with LAPD in our house, and then done law enforcement service delivery. I think it's really a unique period in time for me in particular, to actually lead this department and lead the county into like a new normal. We talked about that, years ago. What's the new normal? The new normal is, having cops, resolve issues in the community, not just through arrest, because it will always happen, but also working with the community in terms of problem solving, in terms of working with job, development, getting people out of, getting them before they get in trouble, working with our children, simply getting out the police car and, playing some basketball with them, or throwing the football with them, or, going on camping trips with them. Those are the kinds of things that I want to bring. And it's not just a specific unit in the department, that the whole department has to think in that mindset. Even in our custodial system, we can't look at people coming into custody as always the bad guys. And we need to look at what is our opportunity to take this downtime that they're going to have and make them better people coming out. And that's going to be the goal.
All right, folks. You heard from the man himself, Cecil Rhambo, running for LA County Sheriff. The vote, the primary election is June the 7th in LA County, from Orange County all the way to Antelope Valley. It's one of the biggest counties in the states, isn't it? California, LA County.
It is the largest county in the United States, and it's the largest sheriff's department in the world.
Wow. So this ain't no boss hog, Dukes of Hazzard stuff, folks. This is real business here. Cecil, thank you for coming through. I'm gonna share this interview. Hopefully people will see it and make the right choice in your favor. In the meantime, thank you very much, Doc, and good luck. I know you got to get back out there and hit this campaign. If y'all see what you like, here's something you like, donate, bro. Donate, bro. Drop a few dollars on that. Don't be afraid. 20, 30, whatever you got, donate. Okay. I'm gonna push the button myself, Doc.
Just look me up on ActBlue. And then, hit the donation button, and then also take a look at my website, Rhambo for Sheriff, RHAMBOFOR Sheriff.com. If you have a question, hit info@Rhambo for Sheriff. It'll go to my campaign coordinator, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you guys may have.
He will answer the questions. Cecil, thank you very much, Doc. Good luck. Keep making it happen. All right. We out of here. Peace, y'all. All right, folks. We just wrapping up a show with my man, Cecil Rhambo, once again running for LA County Sheriff. The brother's very qualified. I've been knowing him for years. If you think you've heard something that you like, you want to cast your ballot for him, I strongly suggest it. In the meantime, folks, I will see you out in the streets. This is your boy Lonzo for the Compton Chronicles. I'm out of here. I'll be back on Tuesday. This is just something I'm doing special for my man. I'll see y'all Tuesday, me and Dusty. Thursday, me and Dr. Dre. We out of here, folks. Peace.